There's something strange about confidence. The people who look the strongest often feel the weakest inside. And the ones who doubt themselves somehow end up in control. It doesn't make sense. But your brain believes it anyway. Confidence feels real. It looks real. It even sounds real. But what if it's just an illusion? What if everything you believe about confidence is wrong? Think about the last time you trusted someone instantly. You didn't analyze them. You didn't question them. You just felt like they knew what they were doing. That feeling wasn't logic, it was perception. Your brain is constantly making fast decisions. It doesn't have time to verify everything. So it uses shortcuts. And confidence is one of the strongest shortcuts it trusts. When someone speaks without hesitation, your brain relaxes. It assumes certainty equals truth. It assumes confidence equals competence. Even when that's completely false. This is where the illusion begins. Because confidence doesn't need to be real to be effective. It just needs to be seen. And once it's seen, it starts shaping reality. Imagine two people giving advice. One speaks carefully, choosing every word. The other speaks boldly, without doubt. Same knowledge, different delivery. You already know who people will believe. Not the careful one. Not the thoughtful one. But the one who sounds certain. This isn't intelligence. This isn't truth. This is perception controlling reality. And most people don't even realize it's happening. Because confidence is not a skill. It's a signal. A signal your brain has been trained to obey. And once you understand that, everything changes. Your brain is not designed to find truth. It is designed to save energy. Thinking deeply takes effort. So instead, your mind looks for signals it can trust quickly. And confidence is one of the strongest signals it knows. In the past, hesitation could mean danger. If a leader hesitated, people could die. So humans evolved to trust those who act without doubt. Even if that certainty is completely fake. That instinct still lives inside you. It hasn't changed. Even in a modern world full of information, your brain still follows confidence over evidence. And that's where manipulation begins. Think about social media. The loudest voices dominate attention. Not the most accurate. Not the most honest. Just the most certain. Confidence cuts through noise. It demands attention. It makes people stop thinking and start believing. And that's exactly why it's so powerful. But here's where it gets dangerous. Because confidence doesn't just influence others. It changes you. It rewires how you see yourself. And slowly, it becomes your identity. At first, it feels like acting. You force yourself to stand taller. Speak louder. Move with certainty. Even when you don't feel it inside. But something strange happens. People start reacting differently. They listen more. They respect you more. They treat you like you belong. And your brain notices that. It connects your behavior to the reward. It starts believing the act is working. And that belief starts becoming real. This is the beginning of the loop. Fake confidence creates real reactions. Those reactions reinforce the behavior. And the behavior slowly becomes who you are. What you're experiencing is a feedback loop. A psychological cycle that feeds itself. You act confident. The world responds. And that response rewires your brain. At first, the confidence is fake. You know it. You feel it. There's hesitation beneath the surface. But others can't see that. All they see is certainty. And that's all it takes. Because perception is stronger than reality in human psychology. The brain doesn't verify confidence. It reacts to it instantly. Like a reflex. Like a shortcut it cannot turn off. And once people respond positively, everything changes. You get attention. You get validation. You get influence. That validation feels real. It feels earned. But it wasn't built on truth. It was built on perception. And here's the turning point. Your brain starts believing the illusion. It starts rewriting your identity. Slowly, quietly, without you noticing. You stop acting confident. You start feeling confident. Not because you changed internally, but because the world treated you differently. This is how fake becomes real. Not through truth, but through repetition. Through reaction. Through reinforcement. And once it becomes real, it becomes powerful. Because now, you're not just acting confident. You believe it. And so does everyone else. But this is where everything starts to break. Because the same system that builds confidence can be weaponized. The same shortcut your brain trusts can be used against you. And most people never see it coming. Manipulators understand this better than anyone. They don't rely on truth. They don't rely on logic. They rely on certainty. And certainty is easy to fake. They speak boldly. They never hesitate. They remove doubt from their voice. And your brain interprets that as authority. You don't question them. You don't analyze them. You feel like they know something you don't. And that feeling is enough to control you. This is how influence begins. Not with truth, but with perception. Not with knowledge, but with presentation. And once it starts, it spreads quickly. One confident voice can shape a room, a group, even a society. Because people don't follow facts. They follow certainty. History is filled with confident people who were completely wrong. And yet, they were followed, trusted, obeyed. Not because they were right, but because they looked right, because they sounded right, because they felt certain. And this is the danger. Confidence can bypass your critical thinking. It can silence your doubt. It can override your logic. Once that happens, you're no longer thinking. You're reacting. And that's exactly where manipulators want you. This doesn't just happen in public. It happens in your personal life. In your relationships. In your closest connections. And that's where it becomes dangerous. People are drawn to confidence. It feels safe. It feels strong. It feels like stability. Even when it's completely fake. That's why toxic people often seem attractive. They don't hesitate. They don't doubt themselves. They project control even when they have none. And you feel it. You feel drawn to them. You trust them faster. You open up more. Without realizing why. Because your brain confuses confidence with safety. It assumes certainty means control. And control feels like protection. But that protection is often an illusion. Because confidence without truth has no foundation. And eventually, it cracks. And when it cracks, the damage is already done. You've trusted them. You've followed them. You've believed them. And now, you question yourself. This is how manipulation works in relationships. Slowly. Quietly. Without force. Just through perception. You don't realize you're being influenced. Because nothing feels forced. It feels natural. It feels like your own decision. And that's the most dangerous part. When manipulation feels like your own choice, you stop resisting it. Completely. But the deepest impact isn't external. It's internal. It changes how you see yourself. It reshapes your identity. And most people never realize it's happening. At some point, you stop questioning the act. You stop asking if it's real. You stop noticing the difference. And that's where the shift begins. The confidence you once performed becomes automatic. Your tone changes. Your posture changes. Your behavior changes. Without conscious effort. And your brain accepts it as truth. Because it sees consistent results. It sees validation. And it assumes, this must be who you are. But here's the problem. The foundation was never real. It was built on perception. Not truth. Not self-awareness. So now, you're living inside an identity that started as an act. And the longer it continues, the harder it is to separate the two. You begin to believe your own confidence. You stop questioning your decisions. You stop doubting your perspective. And that feels powerful. But that power comes with a cost. Because doubt is not weakness. It's awareness. And when it disappears, so does your ability to grow. Without doubt, you stop learning. Without questioning, you stop improving. You become fixed, certain, and dangerously blind. This is where fake confidence turns into arrogance. And arrogance is where reality finally starts to break. At first, nothing seems wrong. Your confidence keeps working. People still listen. They still follow. They still believe you. And that reinforces everything. But beneath the surface, small cracks begin to form. Tiny mistakes. Missed details. Subtle misjudgments. Things you would have noticed before. Because now, you're not questioning yourself anymore. You trust your instincts blindly. You assume you're right. And that's where errors begin to grow. At first, the mistakes are small. Easy to ignore. Easy to justify. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. And you move on. But small mistakes don't stay small. They accumulate. They stack. And eventually, they become impossible to ignore. And when reality pushes back, it doesn't do it gently. It hits all at once, breaking the illusion you've been living in. Suddenly, things stop working. People stop responding the same way. The confidence that once gave you control starts losing its power. And for the first time, doubt returns. But now it feels unfamiliar, uncomfortable, almost threatening. Because you've been living without it for so long. You forgot how to question yourself. You forgot how to step back. You forgot how to see clearly. And now, reality is forcing you to confront it. Forcing you to see what you ignored. Forcing you to face what was always there. This is the moment everything starts to feel different. The confidence that once felt natural, now feels forced. The certainty begins to fade. And something unfamiliar begins to rise again. Doubt. The same thing you once suppressed, now returns. But it doesn't come back gently. It comes back louder. Stronger. Harder to ignore. Because now, it's not just questioning your decisions. It's questioning your identity. Who are you without that confidence? What is real, and what was just an act? The line between performance and reality begins to blur. You can't clearly separate them anymore. The version you created, and the version you are, start to collide. And that creates tension. Internal conflict. A quiet pressure that builds beneath the surface. Something doesn't feel right anymore. Because deep down, you know the truth. You know where it started. You know it wasn't real. And that realization begins to break the illusion. But letting go isn't easy. That confidence gave you power. It gave you control. It gave you identity. And losing it feels like losing yourself. So you resist it. You try to hold on to it. You try to act the same. You try to maintain the image. Even when it no longer feels true. But the harder you try, the more unnatural it feels. The more obvious the cracks become. The more the illusion starts to fall apart. And eventually, you're left with a question you can't avoid anymore. Was the confidence ever real, or was it always just a mask? At some point, you stop running from the question. You stop pretending everything is fine. You stop forcing the image. And you finally pause. You begin to observe yourself. Not the version you show others. Not the confident image. But the real version underneath it all. And for the first time in a long time, you allow doubt to exist. You don't suppress it. You don't fight it. You just let it be there. Because now you understand something important. Doubt is not weakness. It's awareness. It's what keeps you grounded in reality. Without doubt, confidence becomes blind. Without questioning, certainty becomes dangerous. And without awareness, you lose control completely. So you begin to rebuild. Not the illusion. Not the performance. But something deeper. Something real. You still use confidence. But now, it's intentional. It's controlled. It's no longer something that controls you. You speak clearly. But you think deeply. You act boldly. But you question constantly. That balance changes everything. Because now, your confidence is not hiding anything. It's not covering doubt. It's working with it. And that makes it real. And that's the difference. Fake confidence demands belief. Real confidence allows questioning. And that changes how you move through the world. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You start noticing confidence everywhere. In conversations. In leadership. In everyday interactions. And you begin to understand what's really happening. You notice how quickly people trust certainty. How easily they follow strong voices. How rarely they stop to question what's being said. And you realize something deeper. This isn't just personal. It's societal. Entire systems are built on perceived confidence. Leaders, influencers, authority figures, they all rely on it. Not just knowledge. Not just skill. But the ability to project certainty. And that doesn't make it wrong. It makes it powerful. Because confidence itself is not the problem. Blind trust is. When you stop questioning confidence, you give it control. You let it shape your decisions. Your beliefs. Your direction. But when you become aware of it, everything shifts. You start seeing beyond the surface. Beyond the delivery. Beyond the act. You don't reject confidence. You analyze it. You don't blindly follow it. You question it. And that gives you control again. Because now, you're not reacting to confidence. You're understanding it. And that awareness, protects you from being controlled by it. And more importantly, it changes how you use it. You stop using confidence to impress, and start using it to express truth. But even with this awareness, something still remains. The illusion doesn't fully disappear. It lingers, quietly, in the background of every interaction. Because no matter how much you understand it, you're still human. Your brain still reacts. It still feels drawn to certainty. It still wants something to believe in. And that's the paradox. You can see through confidence and still be influenced by it. You can understand the illusion and still feel it. Because awareness doesn't remove the effect. It only gives you a choice. A choice to pause. A choice to question. A choice to think. And most people never make that choice. They keep following certainty. They keep trusting confidence. They keep repeating the same cycle. Not because they're weak. Not because they're unaware. But because it's easier. Easier than questioning everything. Easier than facing doubt. But if you've made it this far, you're already different. You've already started seeing what most people ignore. And that changes you. Because now, you're aware of the performance. Not just in others, but in yourself. In your words. In your actions. In your identity. And that awareness gives you something rare. Control. Not over others, but over yourself. Over how you think. Over how you respond. And in a world driven by perception, that might be the most powerful thing you can have. So in the end, confidence was never the truth. It was never a guarantee. It was never proof of anything. It was simply a signal your brain learned to trust. A signal that can be real. Or completely fake. A signal that can guide you, or mislead you. And most of the time, you won't know the difference. Because confidence doesn't reveal truth. It hides uncertainty. It masks doubt. It creates the illusion of control, even when there is none. And the more convincing it is, the more dangerous it becomes. Not because it's evil, but because it's believable. But now, you see it. You understand it. You recognize the pattern. And that awareness changes everything. You don't have to reject confidence. You don't have to fear it. You just have to see it clearly, for what it really is. A tool. Nothing more. Nothing less. Something you can use, without being controlled by it. Because real power is not sounding confident. It's not appearing certain. It's not convincing others. Real power is knowing when you're wrong. It's questioning yourself. It's choosing truth over comfort, even when it's difficult. So ask yourself this: are you truly confident? Or have you just learned how to appear that way?